foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler, your host of the Weekly Business Hour. I welcome you to this week's version of the Weekly Business Hour. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses, in fact, throughout the world now, come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and be a part of conversations that can make a real difference in your business. So we hope you're here today to learn, because I think we're going to have a lot of good ideas that potentially can help your business. The show is sponsored by OneBestConsult.com. That's the number one, bestconsult.com. OneBestConsult.com is where you find common sense business advice, a community of small businesses. I encourage you to visit OneBestConsult.com if you have a chance. I personally am the founder of this website, and I've taken over 40 years of business experience of starting, buying, developing, building businesses and selling them. And I put it on that website. Now, that sounds interesting to you. I think I'd take a look. But we have a lot of great conversations. And if you'd like to talk to me personally, you can do it through onebestconsult.com. And that reminds me, if you have a comment during the show or even after the show, or a question, a concern, or you've got a question about your own business, reach out to me. My email, onebestconsult@gmail.com. Or if you'd rather talk to me by phone, my phone is always available, 832-699-2132. Well, let me give you a quick rundown on the show today. Our special guest, we're going to continue our conversation with Ashley Easterwood, the founder, owner of Springwoods Marketing, about digital marketing in our Soup to Nuts series. In our Did You Know segment today, I'm going to talk about how much are the new trade tariffs affecting your business. And I'll close out today's show with my One Best Consult tip of the week, a shortcut to productivity. So I encourage you, sit back, grab your pad and pencil, and get ready to take some notes as we talk about everything business here on the Weekly Business Hour. And let me remind you that if you want to listen to part of the show, or you want to go back and listen to a previous show, they're posted on Facebook. So I encourage you to like us on Facebook. We have the Weekly Business Hour page. Appreciate the like, and you can also set up an alert when a new show is posted, which is typically on Wednesday following the show. It will alert you the show is posted. You can take a look at the guests. You can take a look at the topics. And if something cues your interest, then you can go take a look and listen to the program on Facebook. Please like us on Facebook at the Weekly Business Hour. Well, that brings us to the heart and soul of the Weekly Business Hour, and those are our conversations. And today we're going to continue our conversation with Ashley Easterwood, the owner, founder of Springwoods Marketing. And we're talking about digital marketing. We had a great conversation last week that kind of opened up and gave us an introduction, talked about SEO, SEM, some of the basics. Ashley, welcome back to the program this week.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I think we had a really wonderful conversation. You and I were laughing after the show. We got through about half of what we thought we'd cover, but a lot of great information. I've had people compliment the show because of the conversation and what they were able to learn about it. Let's kind of rewind just a tad, and let's talk about, to me, what the heart and soul of this subject is, and that's digital marketing strategy. You and I both very much believe that every viable business today needs to have some kind of digital marketing strategy. Share with us why, in your opinion, that is so important to every business in today's world.
Well, with digital marketing, there's so many different options and different things that you can do. People, when I tell them that I do marketing, that I have a marketing company, usually the next question is, well, what type of marketing? And specifically with digital marketing, there's social media, there's websites, there's so many different things, videos. So if you haven't sat down and actually tried to develop a plan or discussed it with a consultant, there may be a lot of things in your head that you feel like other people know, but you need to have a plan so that you can decide who your audience is and how you're going to reach those people.
That's one of the things that is I was preparing for today's show and listening to our conversation last week, a tape of it, and is that even on my own, when I go to the web, I look at websites, I'm checking out businesses, whatever, personal or for my business, whatever. I'm amazed how many people really have not invested or invested very little. It's obvious the way the presentation of the website and what it says and how easy it is to look at, all those basics that go into having a good website. They've got a great business on one hand, but their website just does nothing to tell that story.
Right.
Why do people do that?
I think a lot of people are intimidated just to sit down and take the time, or they say, especially with a small business, people will say, I don't have time to do this. But what they don't realize is by not developing a plan, you're actually wasting more time and more money because you're putting efforts into something that isn't focused on an end goal. So you really need to sit down and discuss what you're trying to achieve. You need to identify your audience. If you're trying to target your product or service to someone who is 50 years old, you're going to approach them a lot differently than you would 18 to 20-year-olds. These things seem just very basic to a lot of us, but really you need to sit down and think about those plans. A lot of times too, people just, they think about developing a plan and it just seems too daunting, but you don't have to start from scratch. You can reach out to a consultant or you can just do a Google search and there are hundreds of templates that are available to you. And the template may be 50 pages, but you don't have to use all 50 pages. Usually they're developed so that you can see all of the options that you would need in a plan, but you pick and choose what is specific to your business. And just going through that process alone will help you identify what you need to do to develop your marketing strategy.
To me, it's kind of like leaving opportunities
right
on the ground. You're not utilizing opportunities. You build a great business as far as the business, how it serves people, great products, services, whatever. And then you're not telling your story.
Right.
And it's not that hard, is it, to tell a great story?
No, it's really not. You have to think about the content and how you're going to put it out there to people, but that is your voice. We actually just wrote a blog article for Springwood Marketing recently, and it was called Finding Your Voice. And we can be the voice of your business, and your voice is put out there through your website and through social media. If you have an email, it goes out that way. And then physically, if you're out in the community doing sales, there's a lot of ways that you need to find your voice as a business.
There's one thing you mentioned of finding your voice, but one thing that when in the reluctance part that you discussed, which I think you're dead on about that with a lot of people, when I had my businesses and developed them, advertising up until lately was more traditional print, type advertising, newspaper, magazine. And the thing always bothered me was that there was no way to really truly measure the effectiveness of the dollars. In other words, to sit down and find out what the value, other than, well, I have new customers, it was very hard to measure. Right. But now we have things like Google Analytics. I mean, that gives a lot of measurements. Let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit about Google Analytics and why it can be so important to the small business and their digital marketing strategy.
Okay. Google Analytics is something that you can easily put onto your website, and it allows you to track the people who are visiting your site. You can see where they live. You can see how old they are, which pages they're going to, the order that they went to different pages, and how long they stayed on those pages. And that's very important. And reviewing that, what we typically do is sit down quarterly with clients and look over their analytics to see what's happening. Another important thing to remember with your marketing strategy and your marketing plan is that it's a living document. So when you sit down quarterly to review your analytics, that may affect your strategy and what you're going to do in the next quarter or the next year.
It sounds like a win-win thing, because now if I'm doing digital marketing, I have a way, in fact, there's a number of ways, but Google Analytics probably being the most popular, to really see that I'm getting the bang for my buck. Right. That I want to get. In other words, create that value and measure that value And like you said, most importantly, in my opinion, be able to adjust where I'm at by looking at those numbers. How does somebody go about? I mean, you putting my Google Analytics. I mean, tell us a little bit more about it, because it's kind of a mystery, I think, to some people. All these different numbers, which you mentioned some of the categories. So, what is it that I need to do as a business owner to establish myself on Google Analytics? I mean, can I do that myself, or do I need to go out and find someone to help me? What's the best way to approach that?
Well, it really depends on how digitally savvy you are. The process of getting set up with Google Analytics is fairly simple to someone like me who works on websites. You actually just request a code and put it on the pages of your site, which, if you're not able to do that, or you're not comfortable with putting things onto your site, you can hire someone. It typically only takes about an hour or two to get everything set up. And from that point, anyone with the login information can actually access the analytics. So you don't have to continue to pay someone to manage it for you. There's no fee to Google. It's a free service. And you just log in and actually look at the data and see where your traffic is coming from.
And it does tell a great story. It's something I've tried to educate myself on a bit as I've learned, and the stories that are told. And it's kind of like your financial numbers. If you can even compare them to other people in your industry to see if your website's really performing like it should. Well, let's talk about some of the content. I mean, content, I keep reading here and there, and they sort of dance around it, in my opinion, in the press over the last few years. It was content is king. You got to create your own unique content, which to me, that's a scary thought for most of us in business. How do we write this stuff? Go out and hire someone to write it. Talk about where content is today in the World Wide Web and in digital marketing. Where does it fit?
I think that content is extremely important. What's changed recently, though, is that text is not the only form of content that we're using. So the text that you put on a blog or on your